Yes, Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've given notice of the following private notice question addressed to the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Defence, Home Affairs and External Communications, Minister of Finance, Minister for Rodrigues and Outer Islands, whether in regard to the Inter-Ministerial Committee set up to look into the economic and social impact of the present conflict in the Middle East, he will state A, the number of times the said committee met to date, indicating the outcome thereof. B, whether any report and or findings have been submitted in relation thereto, and if so, whether consideration will be given to table copy thereof, and C, the measures being contemplated to address the economic situation arising therefrom, indicating the estimated amount of value-added tax and excise duties to be collected on petroleum products during this financial year, and whether consideration will be given for the reduction of taxes and excise duties on the said products. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Prime
Yes,
Minister.
Madam Speaker, as I've already stated, ever since the war erupted on the 28th of February of this year, I have been personally monitoring the situation very closely. Government has taken a proactive stance to mitigate its potential impact on our country. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, the situation in the Middle East has worsened, resulting in severe energy supply disruption. It is worth recalling that the International Energy Agency has described this situation as, then I quote, the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market, the largest. This will also result in a drastic reduction in liquefied natural gas and fertilizers. We are all continuously monitoring the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Also, inflationary pressures are building up exponentially everywhere in the world. Many countries with far more resources than Mauritius have already declared a state of economic emergency. Madam Speaker, I may also add that a few days ago, the heads of the International Energy Agency, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank have agreed to form a coordination group to maximize the institution's response to the energy and economic impacts of the war in the Middle East. This war is causing, as I said, major disruptions in the supply chains, triggering sharp increases in international prices of oil, gas, but not only oil and gas, also grain and fertilizer. Freight and maritime insurance costs have also surged, and there's a renewed volatility in global financial markets. As a result, global growth has slowed. For a small, open, and highly import-dependent economy, such as Mauritius, heavily reliant on petroleum imports, tourism, and stable seaborne trade routes, these developments constitute a significant external shock with potential of long-lasting adverse implications, not only for inflation and growth, but also on the balance of payments and the cost of living. Madam Speaker, as of today, the price per barrel of Brent oil is $111 compared to 72.48 on the 27th of February before the war broke out. This represents an increase of 53%. Our import bill for petroleum products by the State Trading Corporation in March of this year has increased by 82%, due mostly to price increases over the previous month. It is expected that the import bill will rise further by around 21% in the month of April 2026. But this is an estimation, Madam Speaker, because as we know, we don't know how far how worse the war will be. The increase in global prices of food commodities and agricultural inputs is exerting increasing pressure on the cost of imported food. There are also pressures on the exchange rate of the rupee. With regard to Part A of the question, the Cradis Committee had a first meeting on Wednesday, the 1st of April, 2026. The committee has reviewed the work undertaken by the high-level committee, which I have set up and which is chaired by the Financial Secretary. In addition, the Cradis Committee has proposed a number of measures to mitigate the impact of the conflict on our country. As regards Part B of the question, a report has been submitted to me, and we will discuss this at the next meeting of the Cradis Committee, which is scheduled for tomorrow. We will then propose a number of measures that will be examined and submitted to the next Cabinet meeting for consideration. Madam Speaker, with regard to Part C of the question, as soon as the situation in the Middle East started deteriorating, several ministries set up a Cradis unit to consider measures that would have to be taken. This was done, in fact, in different ministries. These include: A, the CEB has taken immediate measures to extend its stock of heavy fuel oil by maximizing utilization of coal by the IPPs and reducing its spinning reserves. B, the Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities has re-engineered its energy-saving awareness campaign to discourage waste of electricity during peak hours and also outside peak hours. C, the Ministry has accelerated its green energy transition in order to reduce our over-reliance on imported fossil fuel. Under this government, a number of renewable energy projects and schemes have been reviewed for increased bankability and effectiveness. New schemes have been introduced to cater for the needs of different categories of consumers, namely domestic, industrial, and commercial. Some 405 megawatts are expected to be generated from the renewable energy projects within the next 2 to 3 years. D, the ministry has also sent a circular to all ministries and departments on the 6th of April, instructing them to implement and reinforce energy-saving measures and to fix a target for a marked reduction of electricity consumption. E, drafting instructions have been given to the Attorney General's Office for the introduction of regulations this month to impose restrictions on the usage of grid power for superfluous activities that are not required for safety and security for a specific period of time. F, the Ministry of Commerce and Consumer Protection has secured supply of petroleum products up to July 2026. The ministry has also secured the supply of fuel oil up to May of next year. I would like to point out, Madam Speaker, that even before the war broke out, I raised the issue of security of supply of petroleum products with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That was during my state visit in September of 2025. I took up this issue again at the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi in February of this year. I am pleased to inform the House that a government-to-government agreement will be signed this week for the supply of petroleum products. As I've already stated in this House, had it not been for the irresponsibility of the previous government when they decided to unilaterally put an end to the contract with Mangalore Refinery and Petroleum Limited, our security of supply would have been guaranteed today. Mangalore Refinery was ours, and he told us he was no more interested in supplying petroleum products to Mauritius in view of the irresponsible action of the previous government in 2014. Madam Speaker, also remember the Betamax case. Let me refer to what the STC itself stated in the High Court of Karnataka on the 4th of December 2017, and I quote, "Mauritius has limited petroleum reserves and the same being an essential commodity. In the event that petroleum does not reach Mauritius within a stipulated time, that is with Pacific Diamond, I think this Saturday, through the said vessel, it shall lead to a paucity of petroleum to the entire petroleum industry and cause failure of the economy, and the commercial activities in the state of Mauritius will come to a standstill." This, Madam Speaker, in the court of law, by the STC, is a direct indictment of the then government's decision to terminate the contract with Mangalore refineries and to also cancel the contract with Red Eagle. Madam Speaker, for this financial year, the amount of value-added tax is estimated to be 3.9 billion rupees on mogas and gas oil, as regards excise duty, an amount of 4 billion is expected to be collected. Madam Speaker, in times of severe crisis, especially when existential issues such as energy and food security are at stake, there is absolutely no place for political demagogy. This situation calls for strong leadership grounded not in ad hoc measures, but in coherent, forward-looking policies that protect our population, especially the most vulnerable, and reinforce our national resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Honourable Leader, you first.
Yes, thank you.
Supplementary.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I take note, and I believe the population also will take note, that it is more than 1 month after the beginning of the conflict that the Honourable Prime Minister will chair tomorrow his first Inter-Ministerial Committee, and you will agree, Madam Speaker, that government has wasted a lot of time. Can the Honourable Prime Minister today inform the House of the specific social measures which are being envisaged to mitigate the social impact of the conflict on the citizens of this country with a view to supporting their purchasing power? Can we have an indication today, Madam Speaker?
Yes, Honourable Prime Minister.
Let me rebut what the Leader of the Opposition has just said. I said in my answer that as soon as the war broke out, within a few days, we set up in each ministry concerned a crisis unit to consider measures that should be taken, and I mentioned the measures, the CB, the Ministry of Commerce and all this. I said all this. There was a first meeting for the crisis committee. I have a report, but I'm not circulating the report, but this is not for circulation. We're going to have another meeting tomorrow, and then we'll decide which are the measures that will be proposed to Cabinet on Friday.
Okay. Second question.
No, I made reference in my earlier supplementary question to the Prime Minister himself,
Yes,
not
I
to
think
the other committees. He's the head of this country, Madam Speaker.
He has
Madam
answered.
Speaker, during my last PNQ to the
May
Honourable
I-
Prime Minister.
One moment. May I, Chair? The Prime Minister replied. Now you carry on with the second question.
I wanted to clarify what I said.
Yes, but he replied.
Madam Speaker, during my last PNQ address to the Honourable Prime Minister on the same issue, I raised two pertinent questions. One was the reintroduction of the CSG
One moment.
allowance.
Please sit down. Yes, Honourable Echevarria, you're going to again stop the Leader of the Opposition. When you spoke last time, nobody stopped you. So I don't want to hear anything while it is his time. He has 30 minutes, he can ask questions. We may not agree or disagree or agree. Please carry on.
Madam Speaker, like I said, I raised two pertinent issues. One was with regard to the CSG allowance, the reintroduction of the CSG allowance, and the other one was a temporary, I mentioned it, temporary top-up for workers earning less than 20,000 rupees, which was turned down by the Honourable Prime Minister. Is the Honourable Prime Minister aware that a press article dated today, it is in the newspaper today, make mention of price increases on all commodities, which the Minister of Commerce said he was monitoring? Now, may we know from government what government is proposing to help those categories of workers, when we know, Madam Speaker, that monthly expenses of a family today is around 50,000 rupees.
Yes.
Perhaps the Leader of the Opposition should be reminded they bankrupted the country. We are paying for the bankruptcy. And now you want me to top up? In which world are you living?
Now, with regard to petroleum products, that is mogas and gas oil, I understand, Madam Speaker, that the State Trading Corporation has to pay an additional 30 million USD per shipment. And for the months of March and April, the country is expecting 3 shipments. Will the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House where the STC will get the necessary funds in USD to pay for those 3 shipments?
So you should have asked that question to the minister concerned, because I don't know the exact price. But you are contradicting yourself. You are saying give relief, at the same time, where do you find the money to pay? You are contradicting yourself.
Don't speak from a sitting position. Please.
We are not in government. They are in government, Madam Speaker.
Yes, but
Now, may I ask the Honourable Prime Minister, if the conflict is extended, let's say, because the situation is worsening now, until the month of June, government will have to find an additional 90 million USD or more for 3 more consignments, bringing to a total of 180 million USD. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether government has done an analysis on how foreign currency reserves will be adversely impacted by these additional payments and in turn reduce our import cover, Madam Speaker?
This is precisely why I said, why did the previous government cancel the contract with Mangalore? This would not have happened. This would never have happened. You know what you did? You paid commissions to agents who then shared the commission with the different ministers who was involved. This is how they govern the country. This is why they cancelled the Mangalore, because Mangalore was government to government, nothing to do with... Sorry.
Prime Minister,
Madam Speaker, government has secured supply of these petroleum products for the month of March and April. Can the Honourable Prime Minister confirm to the House that supplies for the month of May and June has been secured if the Strait of Hormuz remain closed for the whole month of April amid growing competition with other countries to access alternate sources, Madam Speaker?
I just explained, Madam Speaker,
have to wait for the
even
answer.
before the war started, on my official visit to India, I asked Prime Minister Modi whether he would try to use his best officers to have us, again, have a deal with India for the petroleum products. As I said, Mangalore, they contacted Mangalore Petroleum Limited. They refused because they said they have been burnt in Mauritius once, they're not going to do it again. They refused because of the irresponsible action of the previous government, MSM. This is why. Otherwise, we would not have been in this situation now. Now he's quoting different prices, but we would not have been. Now, sorry, Madam Speaker.
no, it's just that the question, it seems to me, there's so much noise, it's difficult to understand. But it seems to me that this particular question was on food security?
Yeah.
Was that it? You say it again. Say it again. Energy security and petroleum. So we're still on the same issue. We're still on the same issue. Okay.
I repeat it again, Madam Speaker, for the House
Please,
to note
please let
that
me
the
hear.
contract for Mangalore refinery was not cancelled, Madam Speaker. Now, can I?
How did you stop?
That's a different thing. With regard, Madam Speaker, with regard to heavy fuel oil, that is fuel which is used for the production of electricity, the Honourable Minister of Commerce promised 2 weeks ago to table the contract between STC and Sara Energy Limited, and he has not done so until now.
Question.
Will the Honourable Prime Minister see to it that all contracts and payments done are tabled today? Otherwise, it will look as if government wants to hide something from the population.
I didn't quite understand. You want me to ensure that the contracts are actually we pay whatever?
Instruct the minister.
I don't have to instruct him. He knows what he has to do. I don't have to instruct him. He knows what he has to do. But let me say, Madam Speaker, I think the Honourable Leader of the Opposition maybe.
I can't hear the Prime Minister. What is the point of shouting off your heads if I can't hear either the Leader of the Opposition or the Prime Minister. We're going to close in 10 minutes. Please, for the next 10 minutes, refrain from all this. Please, Prime Minister.
As I said to the Honourable Leader and to the House, that even before the war broke out, I asked the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, if we could again start a government-to-government agreement for petroleum products. He, as I said, he agreed. They spoke to Mangalore, who refused. Then he has spoken to Indian Oil, who has agreed. And I said, tomorrow, not tomorrow, I think the day after, Thursday, we are signing the agreement for petroleum products. Unfortunately, while Mangalore could also provide us with heavy fuel, Indian Oil cannot.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because they broke the contract. But this, we are looking to see whether there are other possibilities. But as I said, I think I did say that we have enough until May of next year in our reserve. I also should add, Madam Speaker, since we're talking about energy, and you're saying about all these, you're trying to create panic. Under the previous government, did you know that our share of renewable energy had reached 17%? It was 24% when I left government. 70, they actually reduced it. And now they're doing a hue and giving us lessons.
No statement.
I'll come to my supplementary question. It's not about what the Prime Minister replied. My question was about the contract between STC and Sara Energy Limited. The minister responsible stated that he will table the contract. Up to now, he has not tabled that contract. Will government table that contract, Madam
Should
Speaker?
ask the Leader of the Opposition, how many private contracts have the table in the House?
Anyway, you will be able to ask the Minister himself.
Now, with regard to LPG cylinders, can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House why there has not been an increase in the price of gas, LPG gas, for commercial purposes, but only for domestic purposes, that is the 12 kg and 6.5 kg cylinder, when we know that the revenue from commercial gas cylinders is used for cross-subsidization?
This question that should have been addressed to him, but I can tell him. We have to look at the whole of the economy. We're not going to grind the economy to a standstill just because there's a war in the Middle East. We have to look at the interests of the country. We are examining this. I must tell the Leader of the Opposition, we are examining this. You will learn from it after the Cabinet meeting on Friday.
Okay.
You have to correct that, otherwise people will believe that you are protecting the
Don't
group,
make statements.
the gros
Don't
business.
statements.
Madam Speaker, the recent increase of 10% on diesel has greatly impacted the SMEs. Will the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House what measures the committee chaired by the Ministry of Finance is considering to alleviate the considerable burden on the SMEs are facing, Madam Speaker?
This is exactly what I said early on. We have to look at the economy as a whole and not just the population. We have to look at the SMEs, we have to look at the businesses, what they are able to do, otherwise we'll grind the economy to a standstill. We are taking measures which we'll announce on Friday.
Your friend is asking for a question. Do you have more?
I'll just...
Okay.
Madam Speaker, it is public knowledge that bakers are asking for an increase on the price of bread, that is per maison. And the Honourable Minister of Commerce is not agreeable to that request. Will the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House what is his stand concerning this request and whether the price of bread, that is per maison, will be increased in the days to come?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I should say that the price of bread hasn't been increased for Martindale for the last 10 years. 10 years, they haven't been increased. Everything else is increasing, but not the price of bread. So they're asking, it's a legitimate demand that the prices be increased, otherwise they can't run the business. And this is what we are considering among the measures that we'll take. But I want to say that it is for 10 years it hasn't been increased.
Il faut faire son pain soi-même, hein? You have one more? One last. One moment. One last for the, then Mr. Duval and then you. Okay? Oh, okay. Up to you.
Yes, may I ask the Prime Minister, 2 weeks ago, during the last PNQ, I had asked with regards to the estimates on how much the inflation of fuel and gas prices will be passed on to consumers. Now that the Prime Minister is signing a deal tomorrow, can he now give us the estimates of how much is going to be passed on to the consumer and whether he will make good on his campaign promise to abolish VAT, which is being taxed on top of the excise duty on every litre of diesel and fuel in Mauritius?
Nobody knew in Mauritius how did you wreck the economy. We did not know when we made proposal. We did not know. It's when we did the state of the economy that we knew what damage this previous government has done to this country. Therefore, and I also said in my answer, if I remember, that our import bill for petroleum products has increased by 82%. So we can't, now you're telling me to what? To reduce the cost? So we can't.
May I clarify?
No.
The answer is the question is, why did you
Honourable members, I don't think Prime Minister can reply more to your questions. Time is going. You have another one, you said. Let him say another one.
You can't insist.
Should...
I've got one to rule you.
Madam Speaker, jet fuel has doubled since the beginning of the conflict, increasing from 400 USD to 875 USD per metric ton, forcing airlines to cut capacity, add fuel surcharges, and raising airfares from 10 to 40%. Can the Honourable Prime Minister inform the House what are the projections for the tourism sector for this year, and what specific measures have been put in place to support the tourism sector, Madam Speaker?
So let me say, Madam Speaker, just to inform the House, if he doesn't know, that everywhere, all tickets, airplane tickets have been increased dramatically. In fact, if you look at the percentage, Air Mauritius has still not increased by as much as some countries who have more resources than us have increased. So this is inevitable.
Yeah, that I know.
So what do you want me to do now? To reduce the price of oil? We cannot, the price of oil, I don't control the price of oil. What do you want me to do? To stop pumping oil?
No ping pong, no ping pong, no ping pong. Yes, Mr. Lubin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the Honourable Prime Minister whether consideration will be given to temporarily reduce tax, VAT and excise duties on petroleum products, as is being done by several countries around the world,
Several countries were not in this bankrupt situation. The answer is no.
Yes, okay.
Madam Speaker, may I ask the Prime Minister, with regards to airfare, is the Prime Minister aware that now airfare of Air Mauritius to go, for example, to Paris is up to 150,000 rupees for economy, twice as much as what Emirates is proposing or other airlines. Therefore, it is clear that Air Mauritius is taking advantage. Does he agree that Air Mauritius should reduce its profit margin right now?
Madam Speaker is comparing Air Mauritius to Emirates. There cannot be any comparison with Emirates. You cannot compare Air Mauritius to Emirates. How can you compare Air Mauritius to Emirates? That is my question.
Okay, time up. We're going to go to PMQT now.